Ever watched a classic Western and wondered why certain scenes felt different, almost modern? Milland's A Man Alone holds the answer. It's a 1955 film that pioneered techniques directors still use today. From Raymond Burr and Lee Van Cleef's chilling silent menace to a sandstorm that becomes a living character, this movie is packed with visual genius that flew over most viewers' heads. Ready to discover what you missed? Here are 15 hidden details that transform this overlooked Western into a cinematic masterpiece. Number 1. The wordless opening that sets the desert stage. A Man Alone opens with a moment of almost mythical silence. Wes Steele wanders the desert after his horse breaks its leg and he's forced to shoot it, then discovers the aftermath of a brutal stagecoach massacre. There's no dialogue, just the haunting guitar score by Victor Young, setting a tone of isolation and tension. Ray Milland, directing for the first time, deliberately choreographed each frame to tell the story visually. He used tracking shots of scattered luggage, a forgotten doll, and the empty desert to hint at both tragedy and innocence lost. Even the way the sun beats down on Wes recalls hot summer afternoons of childhood, when you ran barefoot through dusty streets. Why do the horses arrive without their coach? Just when you think you've grasped the scene, a shadow moves. A horse appears alone, carrying Wes toward town. Milland trusted the audience to notice tiny details: the wind blowing crumpled cash, the dust settling on overturned trunks. These visual cues quietly reveal his clever storytelling and make the audience feel every bit of tension and uncertainty. It's a wordless, patient opening that sets the stage for suspense, and many fans admit it's one of the most unforgettable desert introductions in classic Westerns. Number 2. The overlooked dress in the desert. Back in 1955, kids flocked to soda fountains after school, sipping cherry cokes and trading baseball cards, while imagining adventures in far-off lands. That same year, Dwight D. Eisenhower was in the White House, and the world seemed both bigger and smaller at the same time. Many viewers told me they were surprised to learn this was planned down to the smallest fold in the fabric. Think of watching Roy Rogers or Gene Autry as a child, in bright, lively, safe worlds, but suddenly confronted with stark realism: a torn dress, a dead child, and a lonely desert. Behind the scenes, Milland used subtle wind effects and carefully arranged sand to make the dress almost whisper secrets of the robbery and the town's hidden dangers. Each ripple hints at chaos to come and Wes's path toward uncovering the truth. Number 3. How a Sandstorm Conceals and Reveals.
You've done better with him than I could.
Well, maybe I've seen more.
The mid-50s were a time of transition in cinema, where the bright colors of traditional Westerns began to give way to the grit and shadows of the psychological thriller. In A Man Alone, Wes Steele rides into town during a blinding sandstorm, one of Ray Milland's most striking cinematic choices. The storm hides him from prying eyes, but also traps him, forcing him into the sheriff's basement. Milland used practical effects like fans, sandbags, and clever lighting to create this desert blizzard, making it feel chaotic, yet hypnotic. The sand isn't just decoration. It symbolizes moral confusion, hiding who is friend and who is foe. How can you trust anyone when everything is covered in sand? Inside the basement, Wes must weigh every word and action, deciding whether he can trust the sheriff's daughter. Milland's direction makes the storm feel almost alive, sweeping tension across the screen, while quietly reminding viewers of dusty childhood adventures in backyard dust clouds or sudden gusts during summer games. Number 4. The Silent Hero in Motion.
Go ahead. Answer it.
Many boys in the 1950s idolized comic book heroes and TV gunslingers, sitting cross-legged in front of the black and white television, while Gunsmoke or the Lone Ranger filled their living rooms. In 1955, Dwight D. Eisenhower led the country, and afternoons often meant trading baseball cards or building forts in backyards, imagining silent adventures of courage. In A Man Alone, Wes Steele remains remarkably quiet during the opening sequences. While not a completely silent film, Milland uses minimalist dialogue to heighten tension, letting Wes's actions speak louder than words. This restraint forces viewers to pay attention to tiny visual clues. Every gesture counts. A lifted hand, a cautious glance, or a shifting foot in the sand communicates inner morality and suspicion. Milland choreographed these small movements with precision, turning Wes into a silent storyteller whose actions reveal more than words ever could. Could silence be more powerful than a gun? This restraint forces viewers to pay attention to tiny visual clues. Dust blowing across a trail, a hand hovering near a weapon, the flicker of a shadow in the desert sun. Even today, these quiet moments showcase Milland's genius behind the camera, proving that subtlety can build suspense just as effectively as dialogue. Number 5. The Deadly Duo, Raymond Burr and Lee Van Cleef. In 1955, while kids were flipping through comic books and imagining villains plotting in dark alleys, Ray Milland was busy bringing two of cinema's greatest heavies together. In A Man Alone, Raymond Burr and Lee Van Cleef deliver a masterclass in slow-burning menace that predates their most famous roles. Burr plays Stanley, the corrupt banker who exudes white-collar evil from behind an imposing desk, while Van Cleef plays Clanton, his cold and calculating hired gun. Their chemistry is a perfect study in contrast. Burr provides the money and the political mask, while Van Cleef provides the lethal intimidation. Milland's direction allows them to dominate the shadows, using tight framing to emphasize Van Cleef's hawk-like eyes and Burr's commanding, immovable posture. The missing piece of trivia: the skipper as a villain. One detail many fans miss is the presence of Alan Hale Jr., best known later as the skipper on Gilligan's Island. Unlike his later lovable persona, he plays the overeager and aggressive Deputy Jim Anderson. When Wes Steele first rides into town, it is Hale's character who tries to intercept him, leading to a confrontation where Wes shoots and wounds the deputy. This event is the actual ticking clock of the film. The town believes Wes shot a lawman in cold blood, giving the banker Stanley and the gunman Clanton the perfect excuse to whip the citizens into a lynch mob. With the corrupt banker pulling the strings, the feral Clanton watching from the rooftops, and a wounded deputy fueling the town's rage, Wes must navigate a landscape where danger isn't just a glance away. It's the official policy of the town. Number 6. The Sheriff's Fever as a Metaphor. Afternoons were often spent listening to the crackle of AM radio, tuning into broadcasts of baseball games or suspenseful radio dramas while chewing on candy from the corner store. In 1955, Eisenhower was president, and towns across America seemed orderly on the surface, even as hidden tensions quietly simmered. In A Man Alone, Ward Bond's bedridden sheriff is more than just physically sick. His yellow fever mirrors the town's moral decay. This illness isn't just symbolic. It quarantines him at home, making him a helpless observer while his town spirals into corruption. Every cough, every trembling hand, every labored breath hints at the weakness spreading through the community's leadership. Milland uses subtle camera angles and tight close-ups to emphasize the sheriff's vulnerability and the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, even as his body fails. The fever becomes a ticking clock. Will the sheriff recover his strength in time to confront the banker and his hired guns? As he lies sweating in the shadows of his sick room, his daughter Nadine becomes his eyes and ears, reporting the growing violence in the streets. Bond's performance captures the frustration of a lawman who knows the truth but lacks the physical power to act, creating a tension that builds with each passing scene. This physical imprisonment forces the sheriff into an agonizing moral reckoning. He must guide Wes Steele from his bed, offering wisdom and support without being able to stand beside him. The contrast between the sheriff's bedridden state and the town's escalating chaos underscores the film's central theme. Sometimes courage isn't about physical strength, but about maintaining integrity when everything around you is falling apart. Number 7. Nadine's courage behind closed doors. In A Man Alone, Mary Murphy's Nadine is far from a passive heroine. She cares for her feverish father, fights exhaustion, and navigates a town dominated by violent men. Milland framed her with soft lighting and tight close-ups, emphasizing her resilience and determination without ever making her feel overly theatrical. Milland intentionally highlighted her hands, her posture, and her gaze to communicate strength silently, letting subtle expressions tell the story rather than dialogue. Nostalgically, it's like recalling the strong daughters from 1950s family dramas, but placed in a harsh Western world where every choice carries real danger. Could one young woman really influence a town built on fear? Nadine's courage grows quietly but steadily, and her decisions ripple through the narrative, affecting Wes and even the sheriff. The careful choreography of her movements and the lighting choices create an intimate sense of tension, making audiences feel each small victory and risk. Number 8. The hidden signals in the stagecoach scene. Hot summer afternoons often meant exploring neighborhood streets with friends, playing detective or hide-and-seek, searching for hidden clues in plain sight. In 1955, with Eisenhower as president, boys and girls loved the thrill of discovering secrets and solving little mysteries on their own. In A Man Alone, the overturned stagecoach isn't just a set piece, it's a carefully constructed puzzle. Luggage placement, scattered cash, and subtle footprints all point to the real robbers, while framing Wes as the perfect scapegoat. Milland deliberately avoided overt exposition, trusting the audience to notice these small visual hints. Each detail appears intentional, from the way a trunk leans against the wheel to the angle of a scattered hat, quietly guiding the viewer toward understanding the crime. Can you spot the tiny clue that changes everything? This scene captures the thrill of discovery, much like sneaking behind a curtain or peeking into a neighbor's yard as a child. Every subtle visual signal adds tension and suspense, forcing the audience to engage fully with the story. Number 9. The role of silence in building suspense. Friday nights in 1955 often meant gathering around the neighborhood football field, feeling the hush settle over the crowd just before kickoff. With Eisenhower in the White House, those quiet moments carried a sense of anticipation, every whistle and cheer amplified by the tension in the air. In A Man Alone, Milland uses silence in much the same way. Even after Wes speaks, pauses and stillness dominate the scenes, creating suspense that keeps audiences on edge. Milland carefully timed these moments. Every gesture, every glance, every subtle sound cue is designed to reward attention and punish distraction. The quiet forces viewers to notice small details, like shifting shadows or a twitch of a hand, which carry meaning far beyond words. Nostalgically, it's like the tense pause before a game-winning play, where the outcome feels poised on a knife's edge. Wes's restraint in speaking transforms silence into a tool, making every word count when he finally breaks it. Number 10. Subtle romance. Behind the basement door. Saturday nights in 1955 often meant slow dances at local community halls, where teenagers nervously held hands under dim lights, imagining romances that felt both thrilling and proper. Eisenhower was president, and courtship was measured, restrained, and full of small gestures that carried deep meaning. In A Man Alone, Wes and Nadine share these kinds of intimate, quiet moments while caring for the sheriff in the basement. There are no overt gestures, no kisses, just trust, empathy, and glances that linger, creating a slow-burning connection that feels authentic. Milland captured this tension beautifully with warm candlelight and shadowed corners, evoking the 1950s ideal of restrained courtship. Milland carefully staged these shots, a hand hovering near another, a shared look, a pause in conversation, all deliberate, all loaded with emotional weight. Nostalgically, it's like remembering those shy first crushes on playgrounds or school picnics, where small touches meant everything. Do you remember being that age, when a glance could make your heart race? This subtle romance deepens the story, showing that even in a town built on fear and suspicion, human connection persists. Number 11. Moral ambiguity in the town's power struggle. In A Man Alone, the banker, the sheriff, and Wes each represent different kinds of power. Money, reputation, and conscience collide as the town's hidden skeletons slowly emerge. Milland's camera lingers on desks, scattered papers, and glinting coins, reminding viewers that corruption is quiet but pervasive, seeping into every corner of the community. These visuals were intentionally staged, with props and framing designed to subtly signal moral tension without dialogue. Nostalgically, It's like remembering small-town streets where everyone knew each other, but hidden rivalries and whispered deals shaped daily life behind closed doors. The film's tension builds as allegiances shift and ambitions surface, forcing audiences to constantly question who truly wields influence. Stanley the banker moves through town with the confidence of untouchable wealth, while the bedridden sheriff clings to fading authority, his badge meaningless without the strength to enforce it. Wes, meanwhile, operates outside both systems. He has neither money nor official power, only a moral compass that refuses to bend even when the mob turns against him. Milland brilliantly frames these power dynamics through spatial composition. The banker sits elevated behind his imposing desk. The sheriff lies horizontal and vulnerable in his sickbed, and Wes stands alone in doorways and thresholds, caught between worlds. The town's citizens become pawns in this struggle, swayed by fear, greed, and the persuasive rhetoric of whoever seems strongest at any given moment. This isn't a simple tale of good versus evil. It's a nuanced examination of how power corrupts, how illness weakens resolve, and how one man's integrity can expose an entire community's complicity. When morality and greed collide, who will emerge as the town's authority, and at what cost to justice? Number 12. Horses as silent witnesses. Quiet summer afternoons often meant riding bikes past open fields, imagining wild adventures where you were both hero and observer of hidden dramas. In 1955, with Eisenhower in the White House, children were captivated by stories of courage, loyalty, and the bonds between humans and animals. In A Man Alone, the freed stagecoach horses play a surprisingly important role. They aren't just props. They observe, react, and guide the audience's attention, silently communicating danger, loyalty, and impending chaos. Milland used subtle movements, the flick of an ear, a shift in stance, a sudden snort to cue viewers to important off-screen developments. Considerable thought went into training the horses and positioning them so they could convey story beats without a single word. Nostalgically, it's like those childhood moments when your dog or a neighborhood animal seem to understand the stakes of your make-believe adventures, giving cues that only the attentive could notice. What might these silent witnesses be warning Wes about? The horses' reactions deepen the tension of the film, reminding audiences that even inanimate or non-speaking characters can hold critical narrative weight. Number 15. The Solitude of a Man Alone. Late-night black-and-white TV shows often ended with quiet reflections, leaving young viewers alone with their thoughts, contemplating the moral lessons of the story. In 1955, with Eisenhower as president, these introspective moments offered a rare pause amid the excitement of daily life and neighborhood adventures. In A Man Alone, the final moments capture Wes walking away from the chaos he has survived, leaving behind a town marked by justice, corruption, and redemption. Milland's final shot lingers on the desert landscape, framing Wes in isolation, emphasizing the psychological Western's focus on human frailty, moral choices, and the loneliness of personal integrity. Milland carefully composed this scene, using minimal dialogue, long takes, and wide framing to reflect both the physical and emotional distance between the man and the world he leaves behind. Nostalgically, it's like recalling those quiet summer nights when you stared out your bedroom window, pondering your own decisions and the weight of responsibility in a world that felt larger than yourself. The solitude is profound. Every character carries scars, but Wes bears the heaviest burden, walking into uncertainty with quiet resolve. The desert calls again, reminding us that freedom is fleeting, and even the bravest must navigate life's unforgiving landscape alone. From wordless openings to symbolic fever, A Man Alone captures everything we love about classic movies from Hollywood's golden age. Subtle storytelling, masterful direction, and layers of meaning that make nostalgic cinema so rewarding to revisit. This 1955 gem reminds us why vintage westerns and old Hollywood films continue to inspire modern directors. Ray Milland's debut belongs in every conversation about classic film trivia and underrated masterpieces of the golden era. If you're craving more old Hollywood trivia, behind-the-scenes secrets from classic movies, and deep explorations of timeless classics that shaped cinema. Subscribe and join our community of classic movie enthusiasts. Drop a comment with your favorite vintage Western, or share your own old Hollywood trivia. Let's keep these Golden Age treasures alive together. Number 13. Ward Bond's emotional peak. Sunday afternoons often meant listening to radio dramas or catching matinee westerns at the local cinema, where heroes faced moral dilemmas that felt larger than life. In 1955, with Eisenhower as president, audiences were drawn to stories where courage and conscience battled quietly behind closed doors. In A Man Alone, Ward Bond's sheriff begins as a frail, bedridden man, coughing and weak. Yet Milland guides him toward moments of deep emotional resonance. Every gaze, every sigh, every small shift in posture is intentional, conveying internal struggle without a single gunshot. Bond transforms before our eyes, wrestling with his conscience, his principles, and his love for his daughter. Milland rehearsed these silent scenes extensively, emphasizing pauses, eye contact, and subtle gestures that spoke volumes. Nostalgically, it's like recalling the quiet tension of a childhood game where rules and alliances were unspoken, yet intensely felt. Bond's arc reminds us that strength isn't always loud. It can emerge slowly, in moments of reflection and courage. Number 14. The Climactic Confrontation.
You better go with steel, honey.
Saturday mornings often meant racing to the local cinema for matinee westerns, popcorn in hand, eyes wide at heroes facing impossible odds. In 1955, with Eisenhower in the White House, audiences craved tales of courage, integrity, and silent resolve. In A Man Alone, the climactic confrontation brings Wes Steele face-to-face with Stanley, Raymond Burr, and Slocum that threatens the town and his own survival. Milland meticulously choreographed every gun movement, shadow, and step, aiming for suspense and realism without leaning on exaggerated stunts. Milland used careful blocking and camera angles to make each shot feel immediate, dangerous, and intimate. Even the lighting was designed to highlight tension, with shadows creeping across faces, echoing the moral uncertainty of each character. Nostalgically, it's like remembering the tension of a childhood street game, where the outcome depended on focus, timing, and courage. Number 15. The Solitude of a Man Alone. Late-night black-and-white TV shows often ended with quiet reflections, leaving young viewers alone with their thoughts, contemplating the moral lessons of the story. In 1955, with Eisenhower as president, these introspective moments offered a rare pause amid the excitement of daily life and neighborhood adventures. In A Man Alone, the final moments capture Wes walking away from the chaos he has survived, leaving behind a town marked by justice, corruption, and redemption. Milland's final shot lingers on the desert landscape, framing Wes in isolation, emphasizing the psychological Western's focus on human frailty, moral choices, and the loneliness of personal integrity. Milland carefully composed this scene, using minimal dialogue, long takes, and wide framing to reflect both the physical and emotional distance between the man and the world he leaves behind. Nostalgically, it's like recalling those quiet summer nights when you stared out your bedroom window, pondering your own decisions and the weight of responsibility in a world that felt larger than yourself. The solitude is profound. Every character carries scars, but Wes bears the heaviest burden, walking into uncertainty with quiet resolve. The desert calls again, reminding us that freedom is fleeting, and even the bravest must navigate life's unforgiving landscape alone. From wordless openings to symbolic fever, A Man Alone captures everything we love about classic movies from Hollywood's golden age. Subtle storytelling, masterful direction, and layers of meaning that make nostalgic cinema so rewarding to revisit. This 1955 gem reminds us why vintage westerns and old Hollywood films continue to inspire modern directors. Ray Milland's debut belongs in every conversation about classic film trivia and underrated masterpieces of the golden era. If you're craving more old Hollywood trivia, behind-the-scenes secrets from classic movies, and deep explorations of timeless classics that shaped cinema, subscribe and join our community of classic movie enthusiasts. Drop a comment with your favorite vintage Western, or share your own old Hollywood trivia. Let's keep these Golden Age treasures alive together. Number